I'm an innocent man, Your Honor, and I have always been an innocent man, Your Honor.
This is John Bunn. He spent 27 years wrongfully convicted of murder. He was arrested when he was only 14 years old by NYPD Detective Louis Scarcella.
Y'all convicted and had a wrong man in prison, and that y'all still have somebody that's on the loose that's right now that killed someone, and that family out there running free, and I didn't deserve any of that stuff that y'all did to me.
Overturned based on the wrongdoing of Detective Scarcella, and to clear his name, he was finally exonerated after 27 years.
I want to say thank you, Your Honor, because it's been 27 years I've been fighting for my life.
This is Floyd Bledsoe. He spent 16 years in prison for a murder he did not commit. He was wrongfully convicted of the 1999 murder of his sister-in-law, Camille Arfman, in Kansas, and was sentenced to life in prison. In 2015, his brother Tom Bledsoe confessed to the murder, and Floyd was exonerated.
I killed Camille Arfman on November 5, 1999. We had sex on my parents' bed. That's how my father's DNA got on her. When the gun went off behind her head, it was accident. Floyd S. Bledsoe is innocent man. Thomas E. Bledsoe is the guilty.
In 2016, the state of Kansas awarded him $1.5 million in compensation, which included $1.1 million for the years he spent in prison and an additional $250,000 for attorney fees.
Move beyond the last 16 into the next 50, 60, 70 years. So, I can't do anything about the past. All I can do is change the future.
This is Paul Gatling, who was wrongfully convicted of murder and spent nearly half a century in prison. He was convicted in 1964 for the murder of a Brooklyn artist and sentenced to 30 years to life in prison.
In 1964, for an African American man accused of killing a Caucasian man in front of his wife and kids and being judged by a blue ribbon panel.
In 2016, the Brooklyn District Attorney's Conviction Review Unit re-examined his case and found that he had been wrongly convicted.
It's a good feeling. I was living a life that wasn't a life. I couldn't vote.
Gatling was exonerated at the age of 81 and received $4.6 million in compensation from the state of New York for the years he spent wrongfully imprisoned. Paul Gatling passed away in 2019.
My wife, I'm going back to Virginia and play with my grandchildren and great-grandchildren and tell them who Papa is.
This is Joseph Sledge, is a man who was wrongfully convicted of murder and spent over 37 years in prison. Sledge was convicted in 1978 of the stabbing deaths of a mother and daughter in North Carolina, despite no physical evidence linking him to the crime and several alibi witnesses.
I can live with myself. I spent all these years in prison. When you're conscious of something you didn't do, you can live with yourself. It's between you and your maker. He knows.
He maintained his innocence throughout his incarceration, and several appeals were denied until DNA evidence proved his innocence in 2015. In 2016, Joseph Sledge received $4 million compensation in a settlement with the state.
Mr. Sledge, how do you feel?
Prayers are out for the Sabrina Bowie family. We're praying.
This is Henry McCllum and Leon Brown. They spent 30 years in prison for the rap and murder of 11-year-old child. Leon Brown was 15 when he was arrested, and Henry was 20 when he was sentenced to death row.
With the help of God, I'm here today.
They took 30 years away from me for no reason, but I don't hate them.
There was no physical evidence connecting them to the crime. Brown and Henry signed a confession written by police after hours of questioning. According to attorneys, the new DNA evidence found on cigarette butts at the crime scene does not match Henry or Brown, and fingerprints taken from a beer can aren't theirs either. Instead, they belong to another convicted murderer and rapist who lived nearby.
family. We're praying for them, and we are so glad this justice was served and the truth finally came forth